The old man I lived with for 3 months had no idea I could buy his house with my credit card. Harold thought I was Maya Parks, a struggling student paying $600 rent. The truth. I'm Maya Chen, and my father's net worth has more zeros than Harold's entire pension. I didn't tell him because I wanted someone to love me for me. But the day he found out, he looked at me like I was a monster. And maybe I was. What happened next shattered everything I believed about trust, love, and what it really means to be seen. Before we dive in, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on the because here on Kindness and Selfless Tread, we share real stories that prove compassion still exists in this world. Now, let me take you back to the moment everything changed, the day Harold discovered the truth. Harold Brennan had lived in the same house for 42 years. It was a modest 2-story craftsman in a neighborhood that had slowly gentrified around him like water rising around a stone. He'd bought it with his late wife, Catherine, back when the street still had corner stores instead of artisanal coffee shops, when children played kick the can at dusk instead of staring at phones in back seats of Teslas. Now the house felt enormous. 3 bedrooms, 1 ghost. He stood in the doorway of what had been Catherine's sewing room, studying the afternoon light slanting through dusty windows. The room still smelled faintly of her lavender sachets, though he'd removed them years ago. The floral wallpaper she'd loved was faded now, curling at the seams. He'd carried the ad copy in his shirt pocket for 3 days before finally posting it on Craigslist. Room for rent. $600 per month. Quiet household. Female tenant preferred. His daughter-less, son-less life had become a series of quiet preferences. Female tenant felt safer, less threatening, less likely to remind him of the son he'd never had, the one Catherine had miscarried in the 5th month. They'd tried for years after that. Then they'd stopped trying. Then Catherine got sick. Harold touched the doorframe, his knuckles swollen with arthritis. 73 felt both ancient and sudden. Where had it all gone? His phone buzzed, an unfamiliar sensation. A text message. He squinted at the screen. I'm interested in the room. Can I see it today? Maya. He typed slowly with one finger. Yes. 3 p.m.? The response came instantly. Perfect. Thank you so much. An emoji. Harold stared at the little yellow face. Catherine would have laughed at him, at this whole situation. Renting to a stranger, she'd have said. Harold, you old fool. But Catherine wasn't here to laugh, and the silence in this house had teeth. 300 miles away, Maya Chen sat in the back of a Bentley, her father's voice drilling through the car's speakers. The internship at Goldman starts in June. I've already spoken to Dad, I told you. I'm taking a gap semester. Maya watched the city blur past, glass towers reflecting themselves endlessly. I need time to figure out what I actually want. What you want? Richard Chen's voice could slice diamonds. You're 22. You want what I wanted at your age, to be taken seriously. That requires discipline, Maya. Not this wandering. Maya closed her eyes. The Bentley smelled like leather and her father's cologne, expensive and suffocating. Through the privacy screen, she could see the back of Davis's head, her driver, her father's employee, her warden. I've made a decision, she said quietly. I'm moving out. Silence. Then, into the penthouse? I can have it. No. Into. Somewhere normal. I've found a room. Near campus. A room. Her father's contempt was surgical. You're a Chen. We don't rent rooms. Well, I do. She hung up before he could respond, her hands shaking. Davis glanced in the rearview mirror, concern flickering across his professional mask. Maya looked away. She'd been lying to her father for 3 weeks now. The Craigslist ad, the burner phone she'd bought at a convenience store, the fake surname she'd given to the landlord, Parks, common and invisible. She'd even gotten a job at a coffee shop using forged references, though she'd had to watch 3 YouTube videos to learn how to work an espresso machine. It was pathetic, probably. Definitely privileged. She could hear the TikTok comments already. Rich girl plays poor. Must be nice to choose poverty as an aesthetic. But they didn't understand. She wasn't playing. She was escaping. At Stanford, everyone knew who she was. The Chen heiress. Her freshman roommate had tried to pitch her a startup. A guy she dated briefly sold their texts to a gossip blog. Even her professors treated her differently, either fawning or suspicious, never just normal. She wanted one person, just one, to know her as Maya. Not as a billion-dollar surname. Not as a networking opportunity. Just her. The Bentley pulled up to a storage facility in Oakland. Maya had rented a unit under her fake name, filled it with the clothes and furniture she'd need for her new life. Davis helped her load suitcases into a beat-up Honda Civic she'd bought cash from a used lot. Her normal person car. "Miss Chen," Davis said carefully, "does your father know where you'll be staying?" "No. And you're not going to tell him. I work for your father." "I know." Maya met his eyes. Davis had driven her to school for 10 years, had taught her to drive, had never once treated her like a burden. "But you also told me once that I reminded you of your daughter. The one who went to art school against your wishes." Davis's jaw tightened. "She's a museum curator now. Very happy." "So maybe," Maya said gently, "you understand why I'm doing this." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he handed her an envelope. "Cash. 2,000. Don't tell me where you're staying, so I can't tell him. But keep your phone charged. And if you need anything." "Thank you, Davis." She hugged him quickly, this man who'd been more father to her than her actual father in so many ways. As she drove away in the Civic, her designer luggage stuffed in the trunk alongside a Target comforter and IKEA pillows, Maya felt something unfamiliar bloom in her chest. Terror, yes. But also, freedom. At 2:55 p.m., Harold stood on his porch, smoothing his flannel shirt, the nice one, barely worn. He'd cleaned the bathroom, changed the sheets in the spare room, even baked banana bread though his hands ached from gripping the mixing spoon. A small Honda pulled up. Too nice to be truly struggling, Harold thought. But not new. A young woman emerged. Asian, early 20s, wearing jeans and a sweatshirt that said, Stanford, in faded letters. She had a nervous smile and carried a single backpack, though her car looked stuffed. "Mr. Brennan?" She extended her hand. "I'm Maya Parks. Thank you so much for meeting me." Her grip was firm but her palm was soft, uncalloused. Rich kid playing poor, maybe. But her eyes, dark, sincere, almost desperate, held something Harold recognized. Loneliness. The kind that aches. "Come in," he said. "I made banana bread." The house smelled like Harold's childhood. Old wood, dust, something baking. Maya followed him through a living room frozen in time. Floral couch, lace doilies, photographs in tarnished frames. An entire life lived in this space, layered like sediment. "Coffee or tea?" Harold asked, gesturing to the kitchen. "Coffee would be amazing, thank you." She watched him move slowly, methodically, measuring grounds with shaking hands. Everything took him twice as long as it should. Maya's instinct was to help, but something stopped her. The sense that he'd find it patronizing, that his slowness was dignity, not disability. "You're a student?" he asked, not looking at her. "Yes. Well, sort of. Taking some time off to figure things out." "Figuring things out." He smiled faintly. "That's what they call it now. In my day, we called it being lost." "Were you lost?" The question seemed to surprise him. He set down two mismatched mugs. One said, "World's Best Teacher." The other had a faded cartoon cat. "Always," he said simply. "Still am, probably." They sat at a formica table worn smooth by decades of meals. The banana bread was dense and sweet. Maya ate a piece to be polite, then reached for a second because it was actually delicious. "This is really good," she said. Harold's face transformed. The wariness softened into something boyish. "My wife's recipe. Catherine. She passed 8 years ago." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. We had 41 years together. More than most people get." He paused. "Do you have family nearby?" Maya's throat tightened. "Not really. My father and we don't see things the same way." The eternal story." Harold sipped his coffee. "What does he want you to be?" "Someone I'm not." "And who are you?" Maya looked at this old man. Truly looked. His face was a map of lines, each one a year, a loss, a laugh. His hands trembled around his mug, but his eyes were steady, genuinely curious. When was the last time someone had asked her that question and actually waited for an answer? I don't know yet, she admitted. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Harold nodded slowly. Then this might be the right place. He showed her the room. It was small but bright, with windows overlooking a wild backyard where roses bloomed in anarchic tangles. The wallpaper was dated, the furniture simple, but it was clean, cared for. I'll be honest, Harold said, standing in the doorway. I'm not renting this room because I need the money. I mean, I do. Pension doesn't go far anymore. But mainly I'm tired of eating alone, of talking to myself. My friends are mostly dead or in homes. My wife is gone. And this house is too big for just me. His honesty was a gut punch. Maya turned away, pretending to examine the closet so he wouldn't see her eyes wet. I'm not very interesting, she managed. I'm a terrible cook. I stay up late. You're here, Harold interrupted gently. That's enough. Maya turned back to him. In that moment, something shifted. Not romantic. God, no. But something just as profound. Recognition. Two lonely people finding each other in the rubble of their separate isolations. When can I move in? She asked. Tomorrow? Today? Whenever you like. Today, Maya said. If that's okay. Harold's smile could have lit the whole house. It took 3 trips to unload her car. Harold insisted on helping despite his obvious pain, carrying pillows and books with determined slowness. Maya wanted to stop him but sensed he needed to be useful, to be strong. When everything was upstairs, they stood awkwardly in the hallway between their rooms. House rules, Harold said. Kitchens open any time. Bathroom shared. Just knock if the door's closed. No smoking, obviously. And Sundays I'd like us to have dinner together. If you're available. Nothing fancy. Just company. I'd like that, Maya said, and meant it. That night, alone in her new room with its floral wallpaper and clean white sheets, Maya video called her best friend Priya, the only person from her real life who knew what she was doing. So, Priya demanded, is it a nightmare? Does he collect porcelain dolls? Does the place smell like mothballs? It smells like banana bread, Maya said. And he's actually really sweet. Lonely. We had this conversation about being lost, and it was the most honest thing anyone said to me in months. Babe, that's because he doesn't know who you are. The truth of it stung. Maya looked around the room, her sanctuary built on lies. It's not sustainable, Priya continued. What happens when he finds out? When your dad inevitably tracks you down? I don't know. Maybe it won't matter. Maybe by then we'll actually know each other. Or maybe he'll feel betrayed that you lied from day one. Maya had no response. Through the wall, she could hear Harold moving around, the creak of floorboards, water running. Her neighbor. Her landlord. Her hope. I just need this, Maya whispered. Just for a little while. I need to know what it's like to be normal. To be chosen for who I am, not what I'm worth. But he's not choosing the real you, Priya said softly. He's choosing the version you invented. After they hung up, Maya lay in the darkness, Priya's words echoing. Downstairs, she heard Harold turn on the television. Some old movie, the dialogue tinny and distant. She imagined him alone in that big living room, the ghost of his wife in every corner. Tomorrow, she'd start her coffee shop job. Tomorrow, she'd be Maya Parks, normal college student. Tomorrow, she'd keep lying to the kindest man she'd met in years. She pulled the covers up and closed her eyes, willing sleep to come. It didn't. The first week passed in a careful dance of boundaries. Maya left early for her morning shifts at Common Grounds Coffee, where she fumbled with the espresso machine and burned herself twice on the milk steamer. Harold spent his days reading, tending his roses, watching game shows with the volume too loud. But Sunday came, and with it, their first dinner. Maya had offered to cook, a disaster that resulted in burnt chicken and undercooked rice. Harold laughed, actually laughed, and ordered Chinese takeout instead. They ate from cartons at the kitchen table while the smoke detector continued its intermittent beeping. You really can't cook, Harold observed, loading fried rice onto his plate. I warned you. You did. I thought you were being modest. Nope. Genuinely incompetent. Maya speared a piece of broccoli. My father always had chefs, so I never learned. The lie slipped out so easily she almost didn't notice it. But Harold did. Chefs plural. His tone was light, curious. Maya's stomach dropped. I mean chef. One chef. At his restaurant. He worked at a restaurant. Ah. Harold accepted the correction without comment, but something flickered in his eyes. Doubt maybe. Or just polite disbelief. They ate in silence for a moment. Maya's heart hammered. One slip. On day 7, one stupid slip. My father was a mechanic, Harold offered, breaking the tension. Came home every night black with grease. My mother would make him shower in the basement before he touched anything. I always thought when I grew up, I'd have a clean job. So I became a high school English teacher. 37 years of grading essays and breaking up fights. Did you like it? Some days. The kids who got it, the ones who'd stay after class to talk about Steinbeck or Hughes, those made it worthwhile. But mostly it was hard. Thankless. He set down his fork. Catherine kept me sane. She'd listen to me complain, then make me laugh about it. Without her. He didn't finish. Didn't need to. Do you miss her every day? Maya asked quietly. No. Some days I forget she's gone. I'll think, I should tell Catherine about this or I'll buy her favorite crackers at the store out of habit. Then I remember. And it's like losing her all over again. Maya reached across the table, covered his trembling hand with hers. That sounds unbearable. You get used to unbearable, Harold said. You'd be surprised what becomes normal. At Common Grounds, Maya's co-worker Jenna was relentlessly curious. So you're renting from some old dude? That's not creepy. Maya wiped down the espresso machine, trying to look casual. He's a widower. Lonely. It's actually kind of sweet. Sweet or stalkerish? Definitely sweet. He made me banana bread on my first day. Jenna snorted. Girl, you're living in a Hallmark movie. Next you'll be solving his wife's murder mystery or some shit. But it wasn't like that. Harold was just there. Present but undemanding. He'd leave books on the kitchen counter he thought she'd like, The House on Mango Street, Beloved, Middlesex. She'd find fresh flowers from his garden in a vase outside her door. They'd cross paths making coffee in the morning, exchanging sleepy greetings before retreating to their separate routines. It was companionship without pressure. Exactly what she'd wanted. So why did the guilt taste like copper in her mouth? On Thursday, Maya's phone buzzed with a text from a blocked number. I know where you are. Come home. This is ridiculous. Dad. Her hands shook. She blocked the number, but 3 more texts came from different numbers. You're embarrassing the family. This rebellion is childish. I'm cutting off your credit cards. You have 1 week. Maya sat on her bed, hyperventilating. The credit cards, she didn't even use them anymore. But her phone bill, her car insurance, her student loans. No. She'd planned for this. She had Davis's cash. She had her coffee job. She could make it work. But the fear was visceral. Her father didn't make empty threats. A soft knock on her door. Maya? You okay? She wiped her eyes. Yeah, fine. You sure? I heard. Harold paused. You don't have to tell me. But if you need anything. I'm okay. Really. She heard him walk away, his footsteps careful on the old floors. She wanted to call him back, to confess everything. The lies, her father, the money, all of it. But what would she say? Hey Harold, sorry. I'm actually a billionaire's daughter slumming it for kicks. Hope that doesn't weird you out. He'd think she was mocking him. Playing dress-up in his loneliness. Or worse, he'd be kind about it. Understanding. And she'd have to watch him pull away, creating the distance her wealth always created. Sunday dinner became a ritual. Week 2, Harold made pot roast. Tough but edible. Maya contributed store-bought pie. They watched Jeopardy together, shouting answers at the TV. Harold was devastatingly good at literature questions. Maya dominated tech and pop culture. "You're like my own personal Google," Harold joked. "You're like my own personal encyclopedia." It should have been comfortable. It was comfortable. But Maya felt the lie growing between them like mold in walls. Invisible but corrosive. One night, Harold showed her photo albums. Catherine as a young woman, beautiful and laughing. Their wedding, small, simple, radiating joy. Photos from the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. A life documented in Polaroids and drugstore prints. "No children?" Maya asked carefully. Harold closed the album. "We tried. It didn't work out." The pain in those 5 words was oceanic. "I'm sorry," Maya said. "Don't be. We had each other. That was enough. Mostly." He looked at her then, really looked. "You remind me of what she might have been like. If we'd had a daughter. Smart. Kind. Stubborn." Maya's throat closed. She stood abruptly. I have an early shift." "Of course. Good night, Maya." She fled to her room, his words echoing. "You remind me of what she might have been like." She was his replacement daughter. The one he'd never had. And he was building his love on a foundation of lies. This had to stop. She had to tell him. Tomorrow, she promised herself. Tomorrow she'd tell him everything. But tomorrow came, and she said nothing. The rainstorm hit on a Tuesday, the kind of California deluge that felt apocalyptic because it was so rare. Maya's car wouldn't start that morning, so Harold insisted on driving her to work in his ancient Volvo that smelled like old coffee and pine air freshener. "You don't have to," Maya protested. "It's on my way." "On your way to where?" Harold smiled. "Doctor's appointment. Annual checkup. Nothing serious." But when Maya finished her shift 6 hours later, rain still hammering down, Harold was waiting in the parking lot. He looked smaller somehow, folded in the driver's seat, his face pale. Maya climbed in, water streaming from her hair. "You waited all this time?" "Appointment ran long. Then I thought I just—" He trailed off, hands gripping the steering wheel. "Your car's still dead anyway. Made sense to wait." "Harold, are you okay?" "Fine. Just tired." But his hands shook worse than usual, and he drove with painful slowness, squinting through the rain-blurred windshield. Maya watched the speedometer hover at 25 miles per hour on a 40 mph road. Other cars honked, swerving around them. "Maybe pull over," Maya suggested. "Let me drive." "I'm fine." "Harold." "I said I'm fine." His voice cracked on the last word. Maya went silent, alarmed. They crawled home through the storm, Harold's breathing labored, the Volvo's wipers scraping arcs through the rain. Inside the house, Harold collapsed onto the couch, his face ashen. Maya hovered, terrified. "Should I call 911? "No. Just need to rest." "What did the doctor say?" Harold closed his eyes. "The usual. Blood pressure's up. Heart's getting tired. They want me to consider assisted living. As if I'd leave this house." "Harold." "I'm not dying today, Maya. Just old. There's a difference." But he looked so fragile, this man who'd driven through a storm to give her a ride, who'd waited 6 hours in a parking lot rather than leave her stranded. Maya felt something crack open in her chest, protective and painful. "I'll make dinner," she announced. "God help us both." She laughed despite everything and went to the kitchen. The rain drummed on the windows. The house felt smaller, warmer, like they were the only 2 people in the world. Maya made grilled cheese, hard to screw up, and tomato soup from a can. Harold ate slowly, color returning to his face. The TV played weather warnings on mute. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for not panicking. You scared me. I'm sorry." "Don't apologize. Just promise you'll tell me if something's really wrong." Harold met her eyes. "Can I ask you something?" Maya's pulse quickened. "Sure. Why are you really here?" "In my house, working at a coffee shop." "You're too smart for this." "Ew. I don't know. There's something you're running from." The truth sat on her tongue like a stone. "I'm running from being Richard Chen's daughter." From $1 billion I never earned. From people who only see my bank account. Family stuff, she said instead. My father and I don't get along. Is he dangerous? Should I be worried? No, nothing like that. He's just controlling. He has this whole plan for my life and I wanted to make my own choices. So you're hiding. I'm living. There's a difference? Maya looked at him, this man who'd shown her more genuine care in 2 weeks than her father had in years. The lie was poison now, but the truth felt like betrayal. Sometimes hiding is the only way to live, she said softly. Harold nodded slowly. I understand that better than you think. The storm didn't break. For 3 days, rain turned the city into a gray watercolor. Maya's car remained dead. Flooded engine. Harold insisted she use his Volvo. I'm not driving much anymore anyway, he said. Doctor's orders. What orders? Nothing serious. Just cutting back. But Maya noticed he moved slower now, napped more. She started coming home between her split shifts to check on him. She'd find him asleep in his chair, game shows murmuring, reading glasses crooked on his nose. She'd cover him with the Afghan from the couch, turn down the TV, leave quietly. She began cooking, simple things at first, then more ambitious. She video-called Priya for recipes, watched YouTube tutorials. The meals were mediocre but edible. Harold ate everything she made without complaint. You're getting better, he said one evening over spaghetti that was only slightly overcooked. Liar. A diplomatic liar. They laughed, and Maya thought, this is what family is supposed to feel like. On Saturday, the rain finally stopped. Sunlight broke through in cathedral shafts. Harold wanted to check on his roses, but the backyard was a mud pit. Maya helped him to the back door, where they stood surveying the damage. 6 months of work, Harold said quietly. Probably all ruined. But when they looked closer, the roses had survived. Beaten down, mud splattered, but alive. Harold's eyes grew wet. Catherine planted the first one, he said. A coral climber. 40 years ago. Everything else grew from cuttings of that first rose. Maya looked at the tangle of survivors, living history, literally rooted in love. They're tougher than they look, she said. Everything worth keeping is. That night, Maya's phone buzzed. Another blocked number. The rent you think you're paying is a joke. That old man's house is worth $1.2 million. Did you know that? You're playing peasant in prime real estate. Come home, Dad. Her father had found her. Of course he had. Richard Chen had private investigators, digital forensics teams, unlimited resources. She was stupid to think she could hide. But the text revealed something else. Her father knew exactly where she was and hadn't dragged her home. Which meant he was waiting, watching, letting her learn her lesson before he swooped in. The manipulation made her sick. She looked around her small room, the faded wallpaper, the simple furniture, the flowers Harold left by her door each morning. This wasn't a game. This wasn't slumming. This was the first place she'd felt seen in years. Downstairs, Harold was probably watching Jeopardy, probably shouting wrong answers at the TV, probably lonely despite her presence, because loneliness was a condition, not a problem solved by proximity. But trying mattered. Showing up mattered. Maya deleted the text and turned off her phone. The following week, Harold had a fall. Maya came home from her closing shift at 9 p.m. to find him on the kitchen floor, one hand pressed against his forehead, blood seeping between his fingers. The step stool lay toppled beside him. A light bulb shattered in the sink. Jesus, Harold. Maya dropped to her knees. How long have you been down here? 10 minutes. Maybe 20. I'm fine, just slipped. You're bleeding. Head wounds always look worse than they are. But his voice was thin, shocky. Maya grabbed dish towels, pressed one against the cut. I'm calling 911. Absolutely not. Do you know what an ambulance costs? I don't care. I care. Help me up. I'll be fine. It took both of them and several attempts, but they got Harold standing, then into a kitchen chair. Maya cleaned the wound, a 2-inch gash above his eyebrow, deep but not ER level. She found butterfly bandages in the bathroom cabinet, applied them with shaking hands. "You could have died," she whispered. "Wasn't planning to. Not yet, anyway. This isn't funny. Little bit funny." Old man defeated by light bulb. Catherine would have roasted me. Maya sat back, studying him. "You can't live alone anymore." "I'm not alone. You're here. I'm at work 10 hours a day. What if this happens again and I'm not here?" Harold was quiet. Then, "Those are the odds I'm willing to take." "Well, I'm not." Maya heard the fierceness in her own voice. "You need help, Harold. Real help. Someone here more than I am. I can't afford a nurse. And I'm not going into a home. Then I'll rearrange my schedule. I'll take morning shifts only." "I'll—" "Maya!" Harold reached for her hand. "You have your own life. You can't put it on hold for an old man you barely know. You're not some stranger. You're—" She stopped, the word she wanted catching in her throat. "Family." But she had no right to that word. Not while lying to him. "I'm what?" Harold asked gently. "You're important to me," Maya finished weakly. Something passed across Harold's face. Gratitude and sadness mixed. "You remind me so much of her. Catherine. Not how she looked, but her heart. The way she worried. The way she made everything feel fixable just by being present." Maya felt tears threaten. "I'm not that good. You are, though. You just don't see it yet." That night, Maya made a decision. She couldn't keep living this double life. Harold needed real help. Help that required real resources. And she had resources. A phone call to her father's estate manager could arrange 24-hour care, medical equipment, anything Harold needed. But the moment she revealed her identity, everything changed. Harold would know she'd been lying. He'd question every conversation, every moment. Their whole relationship would be retroactively tainted. Unless she could make him understand why she'd hidden. Maya sat on her bed, phone in hand, composing and deleting texts to Priya. "I think I need to tell him. What if he hates me after? What if he was only nice because he thought I was nobody?" Finally, Priya called her. "Babe, you're spiraling. What happened?" Maya explained the fall, the blood, the terror of finding him on the floor. "He could have died," she finished. "And I'm sitting here with access to resources that could help him, but I can't use them without destroying the only honest relationship I've ever had. Except it's not even honest, is it? Because it's built on lies. So tell him. And if he feels betrayed? Then he feels betrayed. But at least you'll know you tried to be real with him." Priya paused. "Maya, you can't keep him safe by lying to him. That's not how care works." Sunday dinner was quiet. Harold's forehead sported a spectacular bruise, purple and yellow. Maya had made chicken soup from scratch, actually edible this time. They ate slowly, the unspoken tension thick as fog. "I've been thinking," Harold said finally, "about what you said. About needing help." Maya set down her spoon. "Yeah. There's a service. Through the county. They send someone a few times a week to check on seniors. Help with shopping, medications. I could look into it." Relief flooded her. "That's good. That's really good. But I want you to know, having you here, these past few weeks, it's meant everything. I was just existing before. Now I feel like I'm living again." Maya's throat burned. "I feel the same way." "Retry. Continue." "Then why do you look so sad?" Harold asked. Maya pushed soup around her bowl. This was the moment. She could feel it, the perfect opening to tell him everything. But the words stuck like bones in her throat. "Just scared," she said instead. "Scared of losing this." "Losing what?" "This. Us. Whatever this is." Harold reached across the table, his hand trembling but warm. "Maya, whatever you're afraid of, whatever you're running from, it doesn't change the fact that you're here now. That you showed up. That you care. Nothing can take that away. But something could. The truth could." Maya squeezed his hand, hating herself. "Promise me you'll call that service tomorrow," she said. "I promise." They finished dinner in companionable silence, but Maya's heart was a stone. Tomorrow, she told herself. Tomorrow she'd find the courage. Tomorrow came and went. Then another. Then another. 3 weeks later, the county service sent Eleanor, a 50-something Filipina woman with efficient hands and a gentle manner. She came Tuesdays and Thursdays, helped Harold with groceries, drove him to appointments, organized his medications. "You could have told me you needed help sooner," Eleanor chided on her second visit. "Pride kills more old men than heart disease." Harold actually laughed. "You sound like my wife." Your wife was smart then. With Eleanor's help, Harold's health stabilized. The house felt less precarious. Maya could breathe again, though the guilt still gnawed at her like rotten wood. But something else was growing too. Real affection. Real family. Harold started teaching Maya to garden. They'd spend Sunday mornings in the backyard, Maya kneeling in the mud while Harold directed from his folding chair, pointing with his cane. "No, no, gentle with the roots. They're tougher than they look, but they still bruise." Maya laughed, dirt under her fingernails, sun on her neck. "I'm going to kill all your roses. Then we'll plant new ones. That's the beauty of gardens. They forgive." They planted a new climber together, a deep red variety Harold ordered special. "This one's for you," he said. "We'll call it the Maya Rose. In 20 years, it'll cover that whole fence." Maya's eyes burned. "In 20 years, I'll probably be long gone, living in some other city, doing whatever people do. Maybe. But the rose will remember you were here. And so will I." Maya started bringing home movies from the library. Harold introduced her to classics she'd never seen: Casablanca, Roman Holiday, The Philadelphia Story. She introduced him to newer films: Moonlight, Everything Everywhere All at Once. He cried at both. "Movies are better than they used to be," he admitted. "More honest. Less afraid." "You're not what I expected," Maya said one night, pausing their film. "What did you expect?" "I don't know. Someone more judgmental. More stuck in the past. More kids these days." Harold smiled. "I taught high school for 37 years. You can't do that job if you hate young people. Sure, I don't understand your music or your TikToks or whatever. But the human stuff, the heart stuff, that hasn't changed since Shakespeare." "Did you always want to be a teacher?" "God, no. I wanted to be a writer. The next Hemingway or Fitzgerald." He laughed at himself. "I wrote one terrible novel in my 20s, got rejected by every publisher in New York, and gave up. Catherine told me I was a coward, that real writers keep trying. She was right, of course. But teaching paid the bills. And over time, I fell in love with it, shaping young minds, watching them discover books that changed them." "Do you regret it?" "Not writing. Every day. And not at all." Harold looked at her. "Life is full of both, Maya. Regret and peace, existing side by side. The trick is not letting the regret poison the peace." Maya filed that away, knowing she'd need it later. One Saturday, Maya convinced Harold to go to the farmer's market. They walked slowly through stalls of vegetables and flowers, Harold leaning on her arm. People smiled at them, this young woman and elderly man, so clearly devoted. "They think I'm your granddaughter," Maya whispered. "Let them." They bought fresh bread, tomatoes, flowers. Harold haggled with vendors in that friendly old man way that charmed everyone. Maya watched him come alive in public, shedding the housebound loneliness like a coat. At the honey stand, the vendor, a woman Harold's age, lit up. "Harold Brennan. I haven't seen you in years. How are you?" "Still kicking, Margaret. You remember me?" "Of course. You taught my son Danny. He's a librarian now, thanks to you." They chatted for 10 minutes about Danny, about teaching, about the neighborhood. When they left, Margaret pressed an extra jar of honey into Harold's hands. "No charge. For old times." Walking home, Harold was quiet. "You okay?" Maya asked. "Just thinking about how many lives I touched. How many students I've forgotten who still remember me. It's humbling. You made a difference." "Did I?" "Sometimes I wonder. 40 years, and what do I have to show for it? No kids. No grand achievements. Just memories. Memories matter. The people you helped matter. Harold stopped walking, turning to face her. When I'm gone, who'll remember? Eleanor will forget me in a month. My former students have their own lives. And you'll move on to bigger, better things. Harold, I'm not fishing for comfort. It's just the truth. We're all forgotten eventually. The only thing that softens the blow is being loved while we're here. His eyes grew bright. And you've given me that, Maya. These months with you, it's like having a second chance at the daughter I never had. Whatever happens next, thank you for that. Maya couldn't speak. Her throat was closed, her eyes flooding. She hugged him there on the sidewalk, this fragile man who'd become her anchor, and felt her carefully constructed lies crumbling. Tell him, her conscience screamed. Tell him now. But not here. Not on the street. Not when he'd just said the most vulnerable thing imaginable. That night, Maya lay in bed, composing the confession in her mind. Harold, I need to tell you something. My real name is Maya Chen. My father is Richard Chen. Yes, that Richard Chen. The billionaire. I have a trust fund worth more than this entire neighborhood. I've been lying to you since the day we met. I'm not a struggling college student. I'm not Maya Parks. I'm a coward hiding from my real life, using your loneliness as a costume to play dress-up in normalcy. How could she say those words to a man who just called her his second chance? Her phone buzzed. Another blocked number. Your little game is over. I'm coming to collect you Monday, 2 p.m. Be ready, Dad. Monday, 2 days away. Maya's heart hammered. She could ignore it. She'd ignored his other threats. But this one felt different. Final. She had 48 hours. 48 hours to decide. Tell Harold the truth and face his reaction, or disappear before her father burned her new life to ash. Downstairs, she heard Harold cough. Deep, wet, painful. She heard him shuffle to the bathroom, heard water run, heard him return to his room. He was getting worse. Slowly, but undeniably. Winter was coming, and his doctor had warned that pneumonia was a real risk for someone his age. He needed her. And she needed him. Not in the way she'd expected when she first arrived, as a prop in her rebellion, but genuinely. Desperately. Tomorrow, she promised herself one more time. Tomorrow I'll tell him everything. But tomorrow was Sunday. Their dinner day. Their sacred day. She couldn't ruin that. Monday morning, Maya woke at dawn, her decision made. She'd tell Harold everything at breakfast, before her father arrived. She'd apologize, explain, beg forgiveness. Whatever happened next, his anger, his disappointment, his sense of betrayal, she'd face it. It was time to stop being a coward. She dressed carefully, as if the right clothes could armor her. Downstairs, she found Harold already up, making coffee with shaking hands. He turned when she entered, his smile automatic and warm. Morning. Sunshine. You're up early. Couldn't sleep. Harold, can we talk? There's something I need. The doorbell rang. They both froze. Harold glanced at the clock. 7:15 a.m. Who on earth? He shuffled toward the front door. Maya's stomach dropped. No, not yet. She wasn't ready. Wait, she started, but Harold was already opening the door. Richard Chen stood on the porch in a $5,000 suit, flanked by Davis and another man Maya didn't recognize. Security, probably. Her father's face was granite. Mr. Brennan? Richard's voice could freeze oceans. I'm here for my daughter. Harold's confusion was painful to witness. He looked from Richard to Maya, not understanding. I think you have the wrong house, Harold said politely. There's no Maya Chen. Richard pushed past Harold into the living room, Davis following apologetically. Stop this ridiculous charade and get your things. We're leaving. Maya stood paralyzed in the kitchen doorway. Harold turned to her, his face draining of color. Maya! His voice cracked. What's he talking about? Harold, I can explain. Explain what? Who is this man? Richard laughed. A bitter, mirthless sound. She didn't tell you? Of course she didn't. I'm Richard Chen, tech CEO. Net worth 12 billion, give or take. And this is my daughter, who's been playing homeless college student in your shabby little house for 3 months. That's not, Maya started. Not what? Not true. You didn't lie about your name? Didn't pretend to be poor? Didn't use this man's loneliness as your personal rebellion project? Harold was still staring at Maya, his expression unreadable. Is he your father? Maya's voice was barely a whisper. Yes. And your real name is? Maya Chen. I'm sorry, I wanted to tell you. When? Harold's voice turned sharp. When were you going to tell me? After another month of lies? Another year. I was going to tell you today. This morning. That's why I came downstairs early. How convenient, Richard interrupted. Always an excuse. Always tomorrow. That's been your pattern since you were 16, Maya. Promise change. Deliver nothing. Shut up, Maya snapped. You don't get to talk about patterns. You, who's never attended a single parent-teacher conference, never asked about my actual interests, never saw me as anything but an heir to your empire. This isn't about me. This is about you lying to a vulnerable elderly man, making him think you cared. I don't care. Maya's voice broke. That's the whole point. I care about him more than anyone in my actual life. Then why lie? Harold's quiet question cut through the shouting. Maya turned to him. His face was ashen, his hands trembling worse than ever. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. Because I wanted someone to know me as just me. Not as Richard Chen's daughter. Not as a bank account with legs. Just Maya. But I didn't know you as just Maya. Harold's voice was hollow. I knew you as a fiction. A character you invented. Everything you told me, your struggling student story, your coffee shop job, your modest background, all lies. Not all of it. My feelings were real. My care for you was real. How would I know? How would I ever know what was real and what was performance? Harold lowered himself into his armchair, suddenly looking all of his 73 years. Did you laugh at me? Behind my back. Poor old man, so lonely he'll believe anything. God, no. Harold. Never. I never. You let me call you my second chance at a daughter. You let me plant a rose in your name. You sat in my kitchen eating banana bread and let me pour my heart out while knowing the entire time that you were playing dress-up in my life. Each word was a knife. Maya felt them all. Mr. Brennan, Davis spoke for the first time, his voice gentle. If it helps, Maya never mocked you. She spoke about you constantly. How kind you were, how much she'd learned from you. Whatever else she did wrong, her affection was genuine. Stay out of this, Richard snapped at Davis. Harold ignored them both, his eyes locked on Maya. 3 months. 3 months you looked me in the eye every single day and lied. I'm sorry. Sorry. Harold laughed bitterly. My wife used to say sorry without meaning was just noise. You know what I think? I think you kept lying because you liked being special. You liked having this secret life where you were slumming with the poor old teacher. Made you feel deep, real, authentic. That's not fair. Fair. Harold's voice rose. You want to talk about fair? I opened my home to you. I taught you to garden. I shared my wife's memory. I trusted you with my loneliness, the most vulnerable thing a person can share. And you were lying the entire time. I was scared. Scared that if you knew who I really was, you'd see me differently. Treat me differently. Everyone does. Everyone always does. So you made that decision for me? Decided I wasn't capable of seeing past your money. Harold's disappointment was worse than anger. You think so little of me that you assumed I'd be like everyone else? Maya had no answer. Because the truth was exactly that shameful. Richard checked his watch. This is fascinating but irrelevant. Maya, get your things. Now. No. Excuse me. I'm not leaving. Not like this. Not until Harold and I. There is no Harold and I, Harold said quietly. There never was. Just you and your fantasy, and me as an unwitting extra. Please, Maya whispered. Let me make this right. How? By telling me more truths that might be lies? By promising you'll change? You've had 3 months to be honest. 3 months of choices. You chose lies every single time. Harold stood, gripping his cane. I'd like you both to leave now. Harold. Please, Maya. Or whatever your real name is. Just go. The formality, the distance in his voice, shattered something in Maya's chest. She looked at this man she'd come to love, really love, and saw only walls. I'll pack, she said numbly. In her room, Maya threw clothes into suitcases, tears streaming. Through the door, she heard muffled voices, her father's clipped tones, Davis's conciliatory murmurs, Harold's silence. She'd destroyed this, the one pure thing in her life, and she'd poisoned it with lies. On the dresser sat the photo Harold had given her last week, him and Catherine, young and laughing. He'd written on the back, "For Maya, who brought light back into this dark house." Maya pressed it to her chest and sobbed. Downstairs, her father was already in the Bentley, engine running. Davis helped load her suitcases. Harold stood in the doorway, arms crossed, face unreadable. "Harold," Maya tried one last time. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But please know that these months were the realest thing I've ever experienced. You weren't my project. You were my family." Harold said nothing. Maya climbed into the Bentley. As they pulled away, she looked back. Harold remained in the doorway, a statue of disappointment. Then he turned and went inside. The door closed. And Maya understood she'd just lost the only father who'd ever really seen her, even if he'd been seeing a lie. The penthouse felt like a museum. 43rd floor, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the bay, furniture that cost more than most people's cars. Maya stood in the middle of it, her suitcases at her feet, feeling nothing. "Your room is as you left it," Richard said, already on his phone, already somewhere else. "Dinner's at 7. We're hosting the Vandermeer family. Important merger talks. Wear the Chanel." "I'm not going to dinner." Richard looked up, surprised. "Excuse me. I'm not going." "Maya, this isn't negotiable. You've had your tantrum. Now it's time to be an adult." "An adult? You mean your puppet? Your pretty prop for business deals." "I mean someone who understands responsibility. Legacy. The weight of the Chen name." Maya laughed. High and bitter. "The weight? You mean the money? The connections? The thing you've hidden behind your entire life. Be very careful. Or what? You'll cut me off? Disinherit me? Do it." "I don't want your money." Richard set down his phone, giving her his full attention for the first time in months. "You think you don't want money because you've never been without it. Poverty isn't noble, Maya. It's grinding and desperate, and it kills people. I built this empire so you'd never experience that. I didn't ask you to. Children never do. But parents provide anyway. That's what love is. Giving what's needed, not what's wanted." "Love." Maya's voice rose. "You don't love me. You love the idea of me. The perfect heir. The Chen continuation. But the actual me, my thoughts, my dreams, my actual personality, you've never bothered to learn." Richard's jaw tightened. "I know you better than you think." "Really? What's my favorite book? What do I want to study? What do I think about at 2 a.m. when I can't sleep?" Silence. "Exactly," Maya said. Harold knew all those things within a month. Because he actually asked. He actually listened. "Harold." Richard's contempt was palpable. "The old man you manipulated and lied to? That's your example of connection." The words landed like blows. Maya sank onto the couch, the fight draining out of her. "I know I hurt him," she whispered. "I know I destroyed everything. But at least he wanted to know me. You just want to control me." Richard was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different. Quieter, almost vulnerable. "Your mother died when you were 3. Do you remember her at all?" Maya looked up, startled. Her father never talked about her mother. Barely. Just impressions. Her singing, maybe. She was a lot like you. Stubborn. Idealistic. She thought I worked too much, that I prioritize money over people. We fought about it constantly. Richard sat across from her, suddenly looking older. Then she got sick. Ovarian cancer. Stage 4 by the time we found it. And you know what all my money couldn't buy? More time. She died at 31, and I was left with a 3-year-old daughter I had no idea how to raise. Maya had never heard this story. Her father's grief was a locked room she'd never been allowed to enter. So I did what I knew how to do, Richard continued. I grew the company. I made sure you'd have every advantage, every opportunity, every protection. Maybe I went too far. Maybe I confused providing with loving. But I never stopped thinking about her, about what she'd want for you. And I know she wouldn't want you throwing away your life on some fantasy of authenticity. It wasn't fantasy. It was real. Built on lies. Built on the hope that someone could love me for myself. But they didn't love yourself, Richard said. They loved Maya Parks. A fiction. Your real self includes the money, the privilege, the Chen name. You can't separate them. That's the tragedy you're refusing to face. Maya felt tears slip down her cheeks. So I'm doomed? Just stuck being this thing I never asked to be. You're stuck being yourself. All of yourself. The privileged and the genuine. The wounded and the strong. That's what being human is. Contradictions all the way down. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She stood at the window, watching the city lights blur and shift. 43 floors below, people live their lives. Real lives, complicated lives. Lives without neat categories of authentic or fake. She thought about Harold alone in that house. Was he okay? Had he eaten? Did he hate her? Her phone sat on the nightstand, Eleanor's number in her contacts. Harold had given it to her weeks ago, in case of emergency. Did this count? Could she call just to check on him? No. She'd lost that right. But she could make sure he was cared for. She could do that much. Maya opened her laptop, navigated to her trust fund portal. She'd never actually used it. The money just sat there, accumulating. She found the charitable giving section, began typing. Anonymous donation to Harold Brennan Purpose. Medical care, home maintenance, living expenses amount, $100,000. Her finger hovered over the submit button. This was wrong, wasn't it? Paying off her guilt? Trying to fix with money what she'd broken with lies? But Harold needed help. He needed home repairs, better medical care, maybe even that assisted living he refused to consider. Her money could provide that, even if he never knew where it came from, even if it changed nothing between them. Maya deleted the form, then pulled up Eleanor's number, typed a text. Hi Eleanor, this is Maya, Harold's former tenant. I'm worried about him. Can you check in more frequently? I'll pay the extra hours. She deleted that too. Too obvious. Too suspicious. Finally, she pulled up the hospital foundation Harold's doctor worked through, made an anonymous donation for senior care services, specifically requesting they reach out to Harold Brennan as a qualifying recipient. It wasn't enough. It was inadequate. But it was something. 3 days passed. Maya attended the dinner with the Vandermeers, wore the Chanel, smiled at the right moments. She was a perfect Chen heiress. Gracious, intelligent, decorative. Inside, she was hollow. Her father noticed. You're doing well, he said one evening. I know it's hard, but you're adapting. That's good. I'm not adapting. I'm performing. There's a difference. Is there? Maybe performance is all any of us have. Maya looked at her father. Really looked. Saw the loneliness beneath his armor. The way he held himself separate even in a crowded room. The way he'd built walls so high he'd forgotten how to climb down. I don't want to end up like you, she said softly. Rich and lonely and convinced that's just how life is. Richard flinched. Better lonely than destroyed by wanting more. Is it though? Harold's wife died. He lost her. He grieved for years. And you know what he told me? That he'd do it all again. That loving her was worth the pain of losing her. Harold's a fool. Or maybe he's braver than both of us. That night, Maya made her decision. She couldn't fix what she'd broken. But she could try. She could choose vulnerability over protection. She could choose truth, even if it came too late. She pulled out her phone and started typing. "Dear Harold." Maya didn't send the text. Words on a screen felt cowardly, another layer of distance when what she needed was to be fully present. Instead, she waited until Saturday morning. She told her father she was going to brunch with Priya. Then she drove the Honda Civic, still parked in the penthouse garage, still holding her Maya Parks life, back across the bay to Harold's neighborhood. The house looked the same. The roses were blooming, wild and beautiful. The Volvo sat in the driveway. Smoke curled from the chimney, Harold's habit of lighting a fire even when it wasn't quite cold enough. Maya sat in her car for 20 minutes, gathering courage. Her hands shook on the steering wheel. Finally, she walked to the door. Knock. Nothing. She knocked again. The door opened. Eleanor stood there, her face brightening and then clouding with confusion. "Maya? What are you? Harold didn't say you were coming. He doesn't know. Is he here? Will he see me?" Eleanor bit her lip. It's been hard for him. He doesn't talk about you, but I can tell he's grieving. Maybe give him more time. I don't want to hurt him more. I just want to apologize. Properly. Face to face." Maya swallowed. "Please. Even if he yells at me. Even if he tells me to leave. I need to try." Eleanor studied her for a long moment. Then she stepped aside. "He's in the backyard." "But Maya, be gentle. He's more fragile than he wants anyone to know." Harold sat in his folding chair among the roses, a book open on his lap, unread. He looked thinner than 3 days ago. Or maybe Maya was just seeing him clearly now, an old man at the end of his life, burning through what little time remained. "Harold," she said softly. He looked up. His expression cycled through surprise, anger, hurt, and finally settled on weary resignation. "What are you doing here?" "I came to apologize. Really apologize. Not through text or letter. Face to face. Even if you can't forgive me, you deserve that." Harold closed his book. "I'm listening." Maya sat on the ground in front of him, the morning dew soaking through her jeans. She needed to be lower than him, smaller. This wasn't about her comfort. "Everything you said was right," she began. "I did lie. Constantly. For 3 months, I looked you in the eye and fed you a story. And the worst part? I told myself I was being noble, that I was protecting something pure. But really, I was being a coward." Harold said nothing, just watched her with those steady, disappointed eyes. "I was terrified that if you knew who I really was, the money, the family, all of it, you'd treat me differently. Everyone does. People either want something from me or they resent me for privilege I never earned. I've never had a single relationship that wasn't tainted by my father's money. So you decided to lie." "Yes. And I was wrong. I took away your choice. I decided you weren't capable of seeing past my wealth, which was patronizing and unfair. I used your loneliness. Even if I didn't mean to, even if my feelings were genuine, I still used you." Maya's voice cracked. "You asked if I laughed at you. I never did. Every moment with you was the most real thing I've experienced in my entire life. Learning to garden. Watching old movies. Sunday dinners. They weren't performance. They were—" She stopped, overwhelmed. "They were the first time I felt like I belonged somewhere." Harold's expression softened fractionally. "If that's true, why couldn't you trust me with the truth?" "Because I'm broken," Maya whispered. "Because my mom died when I was little and my dad raised me like a business asset instead of a daughter. Because I've been lonely my entire life, surrounded by people and still alone. Because when I met you, this kind, genuine person who asked about my day and remembered my favorite tea and made me feel seen, I was so terrified of losing it that I held on with lies instead of trust." She wiped her eyes. "I know that doesn't excuse it. Nothing excuses it. But that's the truth. The ugly, selfish, scared truth." Harold was quiet for a long time. A hummingbird visited the roses, iridescent and oblivious. Somewhere down the street, children laughed. "When Catherine died," Harold said finally, I wanted to die too. The grief was, it was everything. All-consuming. I'd wake up and forget she was gone, reach for her, remember, and the loss would hit me all over again like a fresh wound. He paused, gathering himself. But eventually, years later, I realized something. The grief was just love with nowhere to go. All that feeling I'd poured into her for 40 years, it didn't disappear when she did. It just redirected, became loneliness, became longing, became these stupid rose gardens. Maya listened, barely breathing, and then you showed up. This bright, strange girl who couldn't cook and asked too many questions and made me feel necessary again. You reminded me what it felt like to care for someone, to worry about them, to want them to be happy. Harold's voice grew rough. So yes, when I learned it was based on lies, it destroyed me. Because I thought I'd finally found what I lost. A daughter. Family. Purpose. I'm so sorry, Maya whispered. But here's what I've realized these past few days, Harold continued. You didn't lie about caring. You didn't fake the way you listened when I talked about Catherine. You didn't pretend concern when I fell. Those things were real, weren't they? Yes. God, yes. All of that was real. Then maybe, Harold started again. Maybe the question isn't whether you lied. You did. That's established. The question is whether the person underneath the lies is someone I want to know. Hope bloomed in Maya's chest, painful and fragile. And? She managed. I'm still angry, Harold said. I'm still hurt. Trust doesn't rebuild overnight. Maybe not ever. He looked at her fully then, his eyes wet. But I miss you. I miss having you here. The house is too quiet without you. I miss you too. So much. If, and this is a big if you stayed. Or visited. Or whatever this becomes. It has to be honest. Completely honest. No more Maya Parks. Just Maya Chen, millionaire's daughter. Complicated human being. Can you do that? Maya nodded frantically. Yes. I promise. No more hiding. That means your father will know where you are. I don't care anymore. You matter more than hiding from him. Harold studied her. You've changed. You changed me. You showed me what family could be. Not perfect, not transactional, just real, present, caring. Maya reached for his hand. I know I don't deserve another chance. But if you're willing to try, to let me try, I swear I'll spend every day earning back your trust. Harold's fingers, trembling and warm, closed around hers. Eleanor comes Tuesdays and Thursdays, he said slowly. But the rest of the week is lonely. If someone were here, someone honest, it might be less lonely. I could be here, Maya said. Not as a tenant. Not as a charity case. As family. If you'll have me. Family doesn't owe rent. Family helps with groceries and yard work and makes terrible dinners you eat anyway. Harold almost smiled. Family tells the truth. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard, Maya agreed. They sat in silence, hands clasped, the garden blooming around them. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a beginning. A choice to try. The Maya rose is doing well, Harold said eventually, nodding toward the red climber they'd planted. It's already put out new growth. Maya looked at the young plant, its tendrils reaching toward the sun. In 20 years, it'll cover the fence. Will you still be here in 20 years? I don't know about 20. But I'd like to be here for as many as you'll give me. Harold squeezed her hand. Then let's start with today. One day at a time. One truth at a time. One truth at a time, Maya echoed. That evening, Maya called her father from Harold's kitchen while Harold napped in his chair. I'm not coming back to the penthouse, she said without preamble. I'm staying here. With Harold. Maya. And I'm enrolling at State. Not Stanford. Somewhere I can commute from here. I'm studying social work, not business. And I'm keeping my coffee shop job. This is insane. Maybe. But it's my choice. And Dad. Maya took a breath. I'd like you to meet Harold. Really meet him. Not as some old man I'm slumming with, but as someone important to me. Someone whose family now. Silence. Then, he matters to you. Yes. More silence. Fine. Dinner. Here. Next week. But he has to use the front entrance like everyone else. It was petty and controlling and exactly what Maya expected. But underneath it, she heard something else. Capitulation. Acceptance. Maybe even curiosity. We'll be there, Maya said. After she hung up, Harold shuffled into the kitchen, rubbing his eyes. Was that your father? Yeah. He wants to meet you. Formally. Terrifying. Completely. But we'll face it together. Harold filled the kettle, his movements slow but sure. Together sounds good. They made tea in comfortable silence. Through the window, the evening light painted the roses gold. The Maya rose swayed in the breeze, alive and growing, rooted in soil that had been tended for 40 years. Not perfect, not simple, but real. And sometimes, Maya thought as Harold handed her a mug and smiled, his real smile, the one that crinkled his eyes, sometimes real was enough. Sometimes it was everything. Stay glued to this channel for more kindness stories.